Join the conversation on the most relevant issues affecting the workplace, as well as the human resource patterns being positioned to solve them on The Office. Get notifications on available job listings and advice on how to apply from featured experts in the industry. Thursday from 4:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. Only on Lagos Talks 91.3.
Welcome to The Office on Lagos Talks 91.3 FM. My name is Michelle Ago. It's a beautiful Thursday evening. Yes. Welcome to The Office. Today we are going to be discussing, as we always do, but it gets special every single day, that I know. And I know you're ready to join in the conversation. But I'd also like to remind you and tell you that The Office is proudly brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management and Lagos Talks 91.3. Now, this segment will shed light on the statements that I'm going to tell you the topic shortly. And the topic is on the place of industrial relations in the new world of work. Industrial relations in the new world of work. Yes, so this segment will shed light on the problem that I've mentioned and how HR pattern being positioned will solve them. All right, now today's guest expert who will be joining us to teach us, to inform us, to educate us on this subject, and that we can learn from, is the MD, CEO of the Babs Associates, a professionally registered and licensed human resource management company from back in February 2013 till date. He is a seasoned human resource and industrial and labor relations expert with over 30 years of cognate postgraduate work experience at both multinational and international organizations. Now, he worked last as the human resource and administration manager at Evans Brothers, Nigerian Publishers Limited, where he managed and coordinated the group HR and administrative functions at the headquarters and 6 regional areas and offices. Now, prior to this, he worked in various capacities at the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture for 20 years. On successful completion of the compulsory 1-year National Youth Service Scheme, he was absorbed and worked briefly in the Manpower Planning and Development section of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, Port Harcourt Refinery Company, Rivers State. His publications, now Mr. Akin, who is my guest, has co-authored Decent Employment, which is an innovative approach to agribusiness training and startup for Nigeria's young people. It was published in January 2021, and CIPM study pack titled Workforce Planning and Strategies, the 2017 edition. He has published several articles in the national newspapers and some professional journals. He's featured in various radio, TV, education, advocacy programs. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is Mr. Akinwande Babs Akinpelu. He is a fellow of CIPM. Welcome to the conversation, sir.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening
and
to
our
you.
viewers and listeners at home, good evening to you all.
Welcome to the program. We're talking about something very interesting, and it might sound a little complicated. So I would quickly just like to first of all ask, what is industrial relations? What is it all about?
Industrial relations can be viewed from different perspectives. First, it can be viewed as a field of study, like any other discipline in any other tertiary institution. It could be viewed as a profession, like engineering, medicine, law, and the rest. So looking at industrial relations, or putting it in right perspective, we can say basically focuses on 2 pillars: industry and relationship. As we all know, any organization, and I mean any organization, private, government, big, small, what have you, has a particular objective in mind, and the objective is to provide goods and services.
Okay.
Now, the relations aspect of it centers around how do you coordinate, how do you effectively harness human and material resources towards achieving that corporate objective. Simply put, that is what industrial relations basically talks about.
Okay.
To a layman on the street,
Uh-huh.
Industrial relations may mean going on strike. It may mean negotiating for increase in salary. It may mean industrial disputes, etc. Oh yes, all these are within the confine of industrial relations. But basically speaking, or simply put, industrial relations talks about that relationship that exists or that's supposed to exist between the major actors or key players or what we call stakeholders in an organization.
All right. Now, what brought about industrial relations? I've heard about international relations, but this is industrial relations. What brought about it? Is this a new career path, or it's new to me, so I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. So how did it come about?
Very good. If we are to go into the evolution of industrial revolution, the evolution of industrial relations, I mean to say, is dated back to 1920, thereabout. And coming back home, it became more obvious when we were colonized by the British masters, and the employment or relationship at work was formalized. Prior to that, again, as I said, we have to go to evolution, which is the historical perspective of industrial relations. In Nigeria, for example, we had our own system of working prior to the arrival of the colonial master. So when the colonial master came, they brought their laws, which we call foreign laws or imported laws or borrowed laws, and formalized the system. That is what has led us to where we are now. So we may want to break it into pre-independence era, post-independence era, and then what we can call present era, which is maybe between 1999 when we have this new democratic dispensation to date. So industrial relations is not a new concept. It has been in existence over the years.
Right. Now, is industrial relations applicable to all sectors of the economy? Is it applicable? Would you say it is applicable to all sectors of the economy? If no, then what sectors make use of industrial relations? Maybe that's where I'm missing out. I'm not aware of the sectors, or is it really applicable to all sectors of the economy?
Industrial relations is applicable to all sectors of the economy.
Okay.
Be it privately organized private sector, government sector, even SMEs. As I mentioned when I was trying to clarify the concept of industrial relations, it is anywhere you find people, anywhere you manage people, the industrial relations, as it were, becomes imperative. It is, as I said, an interaction among managers, workers, agencies of government, business owners, even community people. So it is relevant in all sectors, including the SMEs.
Right. Thank you. Now, with the pandemic, our world has, been disrupted with technology taking a front row seat. Now, based on this, industrial relations, is industrial relations challenged in the new world of work?
Oh, yes, it is. As a matter of fact, as you've said, the pandemic brought a lot of disruption to not only the marketplace, to the way we think, the way we work as individuals, as people, as a group. And industrial relations system is not an exemption. So it makes all the actors, principal actors, and when I'm talking about industrial relation actors, we are talking about the government and its agencies. We are talking about employer and some often represented by the management or associations. We are talking about employees, most often than not represented by trade union, where we have trade union. So all the major or principal actors now have to think differently. We now have to think and work differently. For example, the idea of remote work has become imperative, has become very obvious now that virtually everybody is looking forward to virtual meetings, virtual conferences, and the rest. And how do we even sustain business? How do we ensure economic sustainability? How do we ensure that there is harmony, which obviously will lead to socio-economic growth and development? How do we relate with people within and outside our workspace? How do we carry out our collective bargaining? Now, with the disruption, collective bargaining has become, not just a platform that we use to negotiate increase in salaries and better conditions of service, but how do we even promote the corporate goals and objectives?
All right. Now, how important and beneficial is industrial relations in the new world of work? How important is it? Is it a big deal? And I would also like to tie this to HR. How important is it? How beneficial is it?
Well, industrial relations is very important in the workplace because it helps in establishing relationship among stakeholders. It helps in ensuring that there is harmony. When there is harmony, there will be improved productivity. When there is improved productivity, performance and profitability will improve, and reward both to the business owners and to the employees will equally be enjoyed. So industrial relations has a major benefit to the government as well, to the people at the state level, at national level, at state level, at corporate level. It enhances employees' involvement in vital decision making, and it also enhances increase in productivity.
All right. Now, in Nigeria of today, what is the state of industrial relations? Let's bring it home. Are the trade unions still as effective and profitable as it was before the pandemic? Have you observed any change in trends? And how much are trade unions using industrial relations for better productivity?
Okay, let me try to correct this. When we talk about industrial relations, as I mentioned earlier, it's not just about trade union activity or trade union involvement. It is an embodiment of the entire workforce.
Okay.
For example, we have, well, maybe in line with what you mentioned, we have labor relations in industrial relations, which is relationship between the union, management, and we also have group relations still within industrial relations. That is relationship between or among various groups of workers. We have employer-employee relations, okay? Then we have other levels of relationship. Now, coming back to the question precisely,
right.
Trade union of late I can say I've involved in what we call industrial education. A lot of human capacity development initiatives have been put in place to increase the level of awareness, to increase the level of industrial relation literacy, which in a way makes the trade union to see themselves as business partner as against opposition or opponent to management.
Okay, so they are not opposition. They can't.
They are business partner.
They're business partners, but sometimes they're, sometimes their objectives or goals may not be consistent to the goals of some organizations. So how are they not opposing them in that case? And how do they ever work together? What are the guidelines? Do we say the labor, the labor laws are, will be respected regardless in that case, or that's where negotiation comes in? How does it really work? Because some employers or managers would think these organizations are there to oppose their agendas or oppose their style of, of running their businesses. What comes to play then? Negotiation, enforcement of the labor laws, or what?
All right. Yeah. Again, as I have mentioned earlier, looking at the concept of industrial relations, the three different actors have major roles to play. The government has role of ensuring that there is put in place appropriate legislative framework, laws, policies, procedures, and what have you. While the employer equally has major role to play, and the employee. So to answer your question precisely, the employers, ordinarily, the objective or the focus of the employer is to maximize profits, to ensure how to minimize costs, how to improve productivity. Just like one of my former bosses used to say, you achieve so much with so little. Whereas the employees, often represented by trade union, major interest is how do we protect the interests of our members? How do we get more of welfare and interests of our colleagues? So this, in a way, if it is not properly managed, may lead to friction. Most often than not, lead to trade disputes. It leads to industrial conflict. But the law, we have provisions in the law that regulates and moderate the roles of these stakeholders, as it were. Where there is maybe disputes, we have Trade Dispute Acts that stipulate how such disputes can quickly and speedily be resolved or settled.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that for us. Now, to balance the coin, how can the employee and employer benefit from the industrial relations? What do they have to gain from industrial relations?
Okay, if I may recoil it, how can we improve employee-employer relationship in the workplace?
Yeah, how can they benefit? How can they benefit from industrial relations?
All right. Okay. The first thing I want to say is there should be appropriate and constructive feedback from the actors. Secondly, there should be continuous and need to improve on communication, effective communication with regular checks in. Number three, there is need to ensure that we have continuous training opportunities to upskill and retool from time to time.
Okay.
Fourthly, there is need for us to have what we call culture, to create a culture that promotes transparency, both on the part of the employer and on the employee.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not the least, there is need to allow flexibility and empower independent decision making, because we are social beings and people like to be involved in decisions that affect or that relate to their life. I mentioned communication because one of the studies carried out shows that about 85% of work stoppage as a result of ineffective communication. Most times we think we communicate, but we do not communicate effectively. But when there is effective communication, we will be able to get the commitment of other key players, and there will be cooperation. And so we call it the 3 C's. Mm-hmm. The first one talks about communication. Mm-hmm. When there is effective communication, it leads to commitment. The second C, commitment. When you get the commitment of others, you get their buy-in. Then the last C, which is cooperation, will become so easy. And with this, there will be harmony. When there is harmony, there will be enhanced performance. When we have enhanced performance and productivity, profitability, we go up.
All right. All right. I think that's all we'll take today. Thanks for sharing this with us. Now we understand the role of industrial relations in the workspace and the role that it also plays as far as the economy is concerned. And with the world becoming more technology driven, especially as regards organizational involvement or involvement in technology, clearly there is a front row place for industrial relations. Thank you for sharing all of this with us, Mr. Akinpelu. Do you have any last thoughts to share before you go, especially for our listeners out there who are employers of labor and employees, something that they can also leave with this conversation as far as industrial relations is concerned?
Okay, my last thought is the workplace globally is becoming more volatile. It's becoming more complex daily for obvious reasons. As a result of this, all the key players need to continuously upgrade, upskill, or retool from time to time, and be more proactive rather than reactionary. Incidentally, in this part of the world, most times we are reactionary rather than being proactive. So the major players in the industrial relations system need to think change, embrace change, dream change, and we should not wait for the change to come on our laps, because we are in ever-changing world of work. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Do have a pleasant day, and we hope to have you back soon to share more on different subjects of which I'm sure you have the expertise for. Have a beautiful evening.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right. Yes, that's the wrap. That's a wrap. That's the end of my show. My guest today was Mr. Akinpelu. He's the CEO and MD of the Babs Association, and he is a seasoned human resource and industrial and labor relations expert with over 30 years of experience. And he joined us today for today's conversation. So yes, there you have it. We'll be back next week, Thursday, as we always do, from 4:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. to bring you the latest trends in the HR space. And this is proudly brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management and